Hey guys, welcome to The Mom Show. I'm your host, Courtney Doyle, and this is a place I am giving you permission to not have it all together. Jennifer Dukes-Lee, I am excited that you are on the show. I'm speaking to moms all the time, and I do have to admit to you, though, your newest book that you've written is about being a morning person.
Yes.
And I have some thoughts on morning people. You may be surprised, but I want you to tell our audience, tell us a little bit about you to start off.
Yes, I'm definitely a morning evangelist. And by the end of this podcast, I want to convince you, Courtney, that you are a morning person, or maybe a morning person in progress, as well as anybody else listening. And because a morning person isn't what you think. But my name is Jennifer. I'm a mom of two adult girls, and my husband is a farmer. We live in the northwest corner of Iowa, and we have a fifth generation family farm. So the Lee family has been farming this ground since 5 years after the Civil War. So that's a
Wow.
long time, and it's really cool to be part of a food production business that has just been at it for a while. Been at it for a while.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow. That is impressive. Let's jump in to this morning person book that you have written. I know that you studied over, I think it's 200 mornings in scripture.
Yes.
And, but I have to admit, Jennifer, I'm the girl that is saying things like, I don't think Jesus should do anything until 9 a.m. because I don't want to do anything until 9 a.m. I've never been that quote unquote morning person. I have some children that are right along with me. And then I've got this husband, and he very much is a morning person. And I've got a couple of kids who are very much morning people. And I'm like, listen, nobody mess with mom until after 9 a.m. That's when I'm my best. But if you need me at 2 a.m., I'm your girl. I'm wide awake. I can conquer the world between the hours of 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. It's like my own little world. You say you think you can convince me to be a morning
I
person.
do. I
Let's,
do. Courtney, so let me just tell you, Jesus doesn't want to have anything to do with me until I've had my coffee. So I feel that in my bones. Yeah, I'd like to try to convince you that you're a morning person. And the main thing to know here is that a morning person it's not about the time you wake up. It's about how you wake up. And when people ask what a morning person is, if I were to give them like a dictionary definition, is someone who has learned to approach the morning with hope and intention. Again, not defined by the hour she wakes up, but by how she wakes up. This morning person is someone who sees the first moments of a day as this sacred threshold in which to
Mhm.
love God with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength. So I think that a lot of us think that we aren't morning people because we think those are the people who get up at 5 a.m., run a half marathon, come back, read the Bible, and exegete the entire book of Leviticus, make a Swiss chard kind of green smoothie, and then iron their bed sheets all before 8 a.m. And
Yeah.
that kind of morning routine just exhausts us. Most of us are not leaping out of bed like Disney princesses. Our hair is in seven different directions, and we're just making a mad dash for the
They
coffee
lied
maker.
to us. They lied
They
to us our
lie.
entire childhood. That is not what we wake up and look like
That's
or
exactly
act like.
right. And I don't know about you, Courtney, but I see like hashtags with morning routine are huge on
Mm.
Instagram and TikTok. I think people
Yeah.
like to see how people wake up. And so you look at those, and if you were to just go out and put that hashtag in, you'd be like, that's not even attainable. That's not the aesthetic of my home. That is not the reality of kids who need me, of the
Mm.
chaos that I wake up to, the feeling of just being really tired because I didn't get enough sleep. There's a
Right.
lot of things that keep us from feeling like morning people. But the
Hmm.
thing is, God is a morning person. And
Hmm.
because we are made in his image, we are morning people too. He
Hmm.
holds a the mornings. He has a soft spot for mornings. As you mentioned, I studied all 200 plus mornings of scripture, and they're really mornings are just a really special time for God.
Mm,
It's when he sends people out in acts of obedience. So a lot of stories will say early in the morning, or in the morning Abraham, in the morning Jesus, in the
mm,
morning Moses, in the morning Joshua. These were the moments when they didn't waste any time. They got to work in the thing that God had called them to do.
mm,
What really amazed me was that the very first thing that God created on this earth, before he created anything else, was a morning,
mm.
when he said, "Let there be light."
Yeah.
There's these real mornings, but then there's also these metaphorical mornings. It's like we read in Lamentations 3 that great is your faithfulness, that your compassion, your mercies are new every morning. And it
Mm,
tells us in the Psalms, chapter 30, that weeping may last for the night, but
right.
joy comes
Come
in
in the
the
morning.
morning. So these are his promises to us.
Mm.
That's why I think that you are a morning person.
I
It doesn't
love
matter
that
what
though.
time.
Yeah. And I love that you're breaking this stigma of this is what the morning has to look like because it is a little daunting. Like I've told you, I've got six children. And so when I was waking up with babies and people talking about, oh, I have my quiet time in the morning, I feel really guilty sometimes because I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't like mornings because it's always been so chaotic. Finding a quiet time when I was had all the children at home, a morning quiet time, I would have been waking up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And then I'm exhausted by
Mm-hmm.
because now I've done my morning time. Now the kids are up. There's no time for me to then just
Mm-hmm.
actually rest and
Yeah.
settle in. And so what do you say to the mom that's Jennifer, my mornings are just way too chaotic to spend any kind of time with the Lord the way that I
Mm-hmm.
desire to do that,
Yes.
but I just
Mm.
can't do that. How do we get
Yeah.
past that guilt that we start putting on ourselves? Because then I think we throw our hands up and go, I'm just not good
That's
enough to
right.
do it. And
That's right. It's
I've
exactly
failed.
what happens. Yeah. When I was a young mom, my quiet times were anything but quiet.
Yeah.
First of all, I didn't have quiet times that looked like that with tomes of commentaries and candlelight. My kids would have burned something down. What I did have though, what I did have my Bible. I read and I did Bible
Mhm.
studies with the girls when they were really little. They were doing their own thing. They had little tiny spiral notebooks, and they would
Mhm.
write or draw before they could write. They would write their prayers or draw their prayers. There were times where I just caught snippets of whatever Bible study I was working on. I used to go through these Beth Moore Bible studies. They were just expansive, and it took me forever
Mhm.
to get through a week of study because of
Right.
my kids. But what I came to learn as a young mom was that the time of study is quite important for us as women and as moms. We need to cling to his word. But that I needed to meet with God in the morning, but those deep, intensive times of study often came at other times of the day or on the
Mm.
weekend. But what I did know that I need was to feel and experience God's presence and protection from the moment that I woke up. So
Mm.
those quiet times tended to involve the children. They tended to be a Bible verse posted on a refrigerator that we would spend all week memorizing. It tended to be prayer every day with the girls before they got on the school bus, a habit that they've taken now into their adulthood. Little prayers. It weren't beautiful prayers, but they we were actively doing these things together.
Mm.
And our morning routine consisted of the other things that we should be doing as moms, taking care of our bodies,
Mm.
feeding ourselves well, making sure that the night before I got to bed at a good time so that I could be fresh and alive and awake for my children despite the chaos. So there are all these things that I outline in the book that we can do to make those mornings just feel more than bearable, but
Mhm.
truly beautiful. These
Mm.
little practices that we can put into place. One of the things that I tell young moms in particular is that when I was probably, the kids were toddlers, I read a tiny book about practicing the presence of God. And it was written by a Carmelite monk named Brother Lawrence. And he was a monk, and his job was in the kitchen. And he cooked and he washed dishes. And boy, did that feel like what I do for my people. He
Mhm.
was doing that for his brothers. And at one point in the book, he said that I feel as close to God in the clatter of the pots and pans as I do at the altar. I experience and possess God in as great of a tranquility as if I were upon my knees at the Blessed Sacrament. So he's saying that while he's washing dishes and doing the ordinary things, he can practice the presence of God and experience God even in these moments of work and drudgery. I took that and I held on to that. Holy work
Mhm.
is done here at the kitchen sink. Holy work is done here at the kitchen table. Holy work is done here at when I'm diapering children or folding clothes. Brother
Yeah.
Lawrence really informed me in that way. So, yeah, quiet time didn't really look quiet, but it was still holy.
I think that's a message that any mom that's listening needs to know, that your quiet time doesn't have to look like anybody else's. It doesn't have to be a specific from this hour to this hour, because like what you just said, it's the little moments, it's the pause that you may take when the kids are fighting maybe. And it's that pause before you interject where you say, "Okay, Lord, give me strength, give me wisdom to know how to navigate this dispute between the kids," or whatever it may be. Just this constant communion with him, this constant conversation with him. And I think that when I was growing up, I didn't fully understand that my conversation with God was ongoing. It to me it was very specific. Sit down, these are the prayers that you do. This is when you have the conversations with God. These are the prayers that you recite. It wasn't
Hmm.
until after I was saved, after I had done plenty of Bethmore Bible studies, that I began to, and I switched from being religious to having a relationship. That
Yes,
then I realized, oh, I can be in conversation with you all the time.
that's
And to
right.
talk about these freeing concepts in the book, The Morning Archetypes,
Mhm.
can you walk us through the different archetypes and how they're helping women maybe to stop comparing themselves to others and what others are doing?
Yeah, that's so good. I'm glad you asked that question because when I started researching this book, I spent a lot of time studying the various people's like morning rituals, like successful people, religious people, famous people. And I was trying to figure out like what are the obstacles that make mornings hard, but what are the things that make mornings really good? And my hope when I was writing the book is that I could come up with a tried and true, one size fits all morning
Mm,
ritual that would like reinvent everyone's morning. But it became evident almost immediately that's going to be an impossible task. That's where these morning archetypes come in. They are a set of personality categories and they are based on personal traits and interests.
okay.
And there's four different types and there's going to be one that sounds like the superior type, but nothing is superior to the other. The first one is the daybreak doer. So this is a kind of person they're like really motivated to get up by what they have ahead in the day. Like they're
Mhm.
probably really productive in the first hours of the day. They find joy in accomplishing morning tasks. Their morning work is just fulfilling. It could be as simple as like reviewing a to-do list or tidying the house or mentally preparing for a work assignment. Those are daybreak doers. And then there are the morning movers. These people function best if they can get physically moving in those first moments or like the first hour of the day. It boosts their mood, it kicks in their metabolism, all that kind of stuff. And it's not always like this big workout, like a high cardio workout. It might be, but it could even be just this person who wants to do like a 10-minute morning stretch or take the dog out for a walk. That's a morning mover. And then there's the meditative mind. And this is the one that's going to sound like it's the best of all, because this is the one who's really drawn immediately into a period of meditative prayer, Bible study, devotional reading, quiet time. Oh, so they do that right away, and it helps them set this foundation of calmness and gratitude and the things that they need to get going. And then finally, and this is the one that's going to be like, really, Jennifer, this is an archetype? It is a social seeker. So
Mm.
this archetype craves social interaction right away. It helps them start their day with a sense of connection and purpose and energy. It could be like my mom, who actually likes to check Facebook right away and tell people happy birthday, to connect with people, to see if she's gotten any texts from her kids. She's a widow, and so social connection to her is really important. Dad's not there
Mm.
anymore. Social seeker might also be your 5-year-old kid who wants to be held in the morning, needs physical touch, needs eye contact, just person to person stuff. That releases feel good hormones. That sets a cheerful tone for the day. So, what I recommend to people is figure out what your archetype is and then lead with that. Lead with that in the morning. If you are a
Mm.
social seeker, text somebody on right away in the morning. Let people know how you're doing. Have a text string with your family where you share about a Bible verse or just gratitude or what have you. Like lead with whatever your archetype is and build your morning ritual from there.
I love that again, takes the pressure off of everyone saying, if the first thing you're doing in the morning is grabbing your phone, shame on you. But you've heard this,
Yeah.
and this isn't good for your brain, and it's not good for that, and you shouldn't be reaching for your phone. But as you were saying that, I was thinking, that's the first thing I do in the morning is I reach for my phone, mostly to see, okay, what time is it? But then
Yeah.
a lot of times I am waking up to text messages from my kids or something that is happening. And I do, as you were saying that, I was like, oh, I do enjoy that. I enjoy
Mm-hmm.
to just sit for a minute, that's drink my coffee or whatever, and I'll chat with friends, group text or family or whatever.
Yes.
Or maybe I will scroll on Instagram or Facebook or something and see what's happening in the world.
Yep.
And that sets me up. So you've given me permission to not feel
Yeah.
so bad.
Absolutely. Obviously, phones, just like anything, we can overuse them. You could overdo morning movement. You could be like, I got to get into this size of jeans by next Friday, and I'm going to move and I'm going to run, whatever it happens to be. Doers, daybreak doers. They can just go headlong into work and not think about anything
Hmm.
else. They can maybe never
Hmm.
move their body, just sit and sit all day at the desk. I could totally be that way. I could
Yeah.
totally end up being that kind of a person, but all things in moderation. And I think if you can find what your personality, your archetype is, and lead with that, and
Hmm.
if it's out of balance, if looking at your phone stresses you out and you have news notifications or things that are just stressful as you scroll on Instagram or Facebook, then probably needs to be a boundary there. But if it gives you life, if it helps you feel good and set a cheerful tone for the day, go for it.
Now, we were talking about the mom that's it's chaotic and things like that, but what about in the seasons when things are especially heavy
Hmm.
and you fall into bed at night and you're like, "Oh Lord, I don't want to face the day tomorrow.
That's right.
What I'm facing is going to be really hard." You wrote about your father being in
Hmm.
hospice and that the morning rituals were just it was
Yeah.
what carried you through though, even though what you were waking up to wasn't a morning filled with joy. What do we say to that mom that's, gosh, Jennifer, I it's not that I don't want to wake up in the morning, but man, I don't want to face what I have to face in the
Hmm.
morning.
And Courtney, that was a time when Dad was on hospice that really hit me because I spent a lot of time helping take care of Dad. He was at home
Mhm.
on hospice for congestive heart failure, and all of us kids kind of took turns and helped Mom. And when you were there, when you were on duty, you were on duty. There was a
Mhm.
lot of stuff going on, getting his meds, taking care of just his cares, his morning cares, making him breakfast, helping him just face his day with joy despite what he was facing every single day. And I learned during that time that I needed my morning ritual, especially on my hardest mornings. That for me offered predictability. It gave me
Mm.
stability. I didn't have to wake up every morning with a smile on my face,
Mm.
but for my own well being and for the well being of those who depended on me, I needed to wake up with Jesus and I needed to move my body and eat right and do all those kinds of things that I talk about in the book. Doing those things helps us frame our attitudes. It helps us see each day as a gift, which all of our days
Hmm.
are, even the hardest days. And it
Yeah.
helps us to be compassionate to the people around us. And I needed to be that for my dad. So
Mm.
during that time, my morning ritual was very basic. My I didn't have the luxury for lengthy quiet times, but I carved out time with God, needing his presence, even if it was a breath prayer. In Christ alone, my hope is found as I woke up, or good morning, Jesus, be with me this day. So I did what I could to feed my spiritual self. I tried to eat even just a simple breakfast every day, drank plenty of water and probably lots of coffee. I moved my body. I took walks. I wasn't at my, I couldn't go to my gym. I was clear over in another town, but I tried to do things to take care of my body, the things that were part of my important morning ritual that I had at home. So
Yeah.
there are simple ways and little things that we can do to keep to a morning ritual, but it might be tempting to just throw it out. Or
Yeah.
even if you're traveling, like just throw it out. But they create a grounding sense to the day. And I knew for me, like that I couldn't put God on the back burner, but I did miss my longer periods of time with my physical Bible. I just knew that later. I knew that I could listen to the Bible or worship songs like while I got ready in the mornings.
Mm.
There's ways
Mm.
around these things that don't have to look just like the hashtag morning routine that you see on Instagram.
Right. Right. I mean, worship music.
Yeah.
I absolutely love to play some worship music, whether it's in the car or while I'm getting dressed. It can absolutely just be such a gift to get you into that space of hearing from the Lord and just feeling his presence with the music. I love it. That's one of my favorite ways to really connect with God. Now, what if I had to say what is one simple practice that
Mhm.
you could share from the book that the listener could shift? I just want a baby step, Jennifer, into shifting my
Mhm.
mornings from being dreadful mornings, they're so early, I don't love them, to hopeful mornings.
Mhm.
What would be one practice you would suggest?
So I would first figure out what your archetype is and pick a practice from there and name it as your ritual. Like, this is my get outside and walk nature ritual? Like, what is the thing that you
Mhm.
have time for and that brings life to you? Even if it's not an archetype, just naming something as ritual feels a lot better than a morning routine. I'm not that motivated by things that are morning routine that feel
Mhm.
routine, but I am inspired by things that feel like a ritual. So
Mhm.
even if it's
Mhm.
like going to the coffee maker and saying, this is what I say every morning. This is my coffee ritual.
Mm.
I name it as this thing that I'm doing, that so that it even feels like a holiness. And while I'm
Mm.
making my coffee, which takes some time because I have this espresso machine that I love called the Breville espresso machine. But when I'm making my espresso, it comes out slowly. And on the refrigerator beside the coffee is the list of people that I'm praying for, people
Mm.
that are from my church or my family, like they're listed there. So I have with my coffee ritual, my prayer ritual, which is right
Mhm.
there. That's something any of us can do, whether it's
Yeah.
tea or coffee or whatever. Create a coffee ritual and tie to it another habit, which is prayer. So
Mhm.
that what a great way to start the day, like taking your
Yeah.
friends and loved ones to the Lord as a part of your coffee ritual.
I love that. And I love the shift in the word from routine to ritual. I think of routines, and maybe this takes me back to being I danced for many years. I have a daughter that's a dancer. I think about a routine, and when you say routine, I think
Mm.
of something that somebody has taught me. I'm teaching
Oh.
you a routine that you need now to
Mhm.
perform. So in my head,
Yeah.
when I hear the word routine, I hear somebody has taught you or told you how to do this. Now you need to perform what I've taught you.
Mm.
But when you
Wow.
say, take this as a ritual, I feel ownership of that. I don't feel like somebody's telling me to do it and I have to perform it. I feel like I've cultivated that. I've created that. This is my ritual.
That's
I
right.
own it and it's
That's
sacred
so
to
good.
me.
That's
That's what
so
I heard.
good. Courtney,
So,
I love that. I love that. And it does, routines can become performative, like you said, something that you
Mm,
have to perform. And then it just, creating a ritual, just to me, it just takes the legalism out of it and it puts relationship first. That God can
mm,
be a part of all these little things I do, even like Brother Lawrence said, the washing of the dishes. So maybe it's your kitchen tidying ritual. Maybe it's your lighting a candle, the ritual of lighting a candle, like
mm,
just these little things that are a pause, a way to
mm.
invite God into the first moments of our day with our ritual.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel inspired and encouraged. I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. Take every little moment that I do already that I enjoy in my mornings and reframe what I'm doing and also use them as a moment to reconnect in ways that maybe I've forgotten to use that small task as a connection with the Lord. This is great. I'm excited for this book. I'm excited for the reader and the listener of this podcast to just try one thing, try one little thing that could maybe encourage you and give you hope versus feeling, I'm just stepping into the chaos of the day. Every episode, I end with asking, is there something that you're praying for that we could join you in prayer? And do you have a verse that you could share with the listeners?
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate that, Courtney, and for anybody who's praying. I just ask for prayers for my children. They live very far away from us.
Mm,
Our older daughter lives in Connecticut, which is half a country away.
yeah.
She's getting her master's at Yale. And we just don't see her very much. And we're a very close family. And also just like praying as she go, it's rigorous study
I'm sure.
and prayers for her. And then our younger daughter, as if it was, if, as if being halfway across the country wasn't enough, she's halfway around the world. So Anna is in full-time ministry at a church in Jakarta. So she serves the Lord there at a church that serves people who are very new to knowing Jesus and directing people and guiding people to Jesus. So pray for her ministry, pray for my mama heart when the
Mm,
girls are so far away. And yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate
yeah,
that.
that is so hard. We will
Yeah.
definitely keep that in
Thank
our
you.
prayers. And a verse. Do you have a verse that
Oh,
you could
yeah.
share?
Yeah, I was the one that just came to mind was one that I came across when I was studying all the mornings mentioned in scripture. So it's from First Kings 17, and Elijah was being cared for bodily by God. He needed food. And so, how did God do this? He sent basically breakfast by ravens. The ravens delivered the food in the morning and at night as well. But I love it because it's like the world's first DoorDash, like delivery by beak.
Oh,
So morning and night, these birds would show up. And it wasn't just an unlikely way for God to provide, it was actually like borderline scandalous. If you go back and you read Leviticus, it says that these birds are unclean
mm,
and
mhm.
they should not be touched. And it's not Elijah was eating a raven, but he was certainly depending on one. And in the eyes of his culture, ravens were really nasty. And what I love about this is that God doesn't do anything by mistake. And we don't know for sure why God would have allowed Elijah's breakfast to be delivered by an unclean bird. But to me, it's proof that God works through unlikely means, that he defies conventional expectations. It's a
Mhm.
reminder to me that God is running the show and he can use whatever means necessary to care for his people. I
Mm,
think sometimes I pray, send the ravens. Help me, God, just to see that you're providing in really unexpected ways, unconventional ways, that provision doesn't always look the way that I think it would, but he's still providing, and to keep my
mm,
eyes open for that so that I don't miss the blessing. And I would want
mm.
that for any mom listening right now.
Wow.
Even if you can't pray anything else today, just pray, Lord, send the ravens.
I love it. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful reminder that he does perform in the unlikely and the unconventional. So thank you for taking the time and writing this book and coming on the show and sharing it with us.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the invitation. This was a great conversation. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks so much for listening to The Mom Show with Courtney Doyle. Remember to check the show notes for any links, books, or resources that are mentioned in each episode. We want to be sure this blesses other mothers, and in order to do this, if you're listening via podcast, be sure that you like and share. If you could write a review, that would be fantastic. It helps us get in front of other moms. If you're watching via YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button. This way, you won't ever miss an episode. We want to make sure that we increase our reach to other mothers who need a little encouragement, a community, and a whole lot of Jesus. We're so glad you're here.